Hey, welcome to the Elle Russ Show, where we explore ways to get healthy, wealthy, and wise. With a combination of guest interviews and solo episodes, I hope you will be inspired and motivated to become the best of whatever you are. I'm Elle Russ, #1 best-selling author and subject expert with over a decade of helping thousands of people across the globe. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about free guides, masterclasses, online courses, and more. Enjoy the show. All right, let's talk about shifting the room. This is going to be applicable in life always, but particularly around the holidays when maybe you're getting together with family and people, don't see eye to eye. But we're not going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about vibes. Because I know you've walked into a room and you've felt tension before, right? We all have. It's like that air is thick with negativity. Maybe you kind of roll into a conversation, then everything sort of starts to spiral into complaints, bad energy. You're feeling drained. You're like, oh man, I need a shower. I got to rinse this off. It's because, the vibe, right? The energy of a room or a person, it's real. It's contagious. It's not something that can be bottled up. But the positive, good thing about this is that just as crappy negativity and downer stuff can just sort of spread like wildfire in a room or a conversation or between two people, the opposite is also just as infectious. And so you have the ability to be the catalyst for that shift, to shift that room, to read it and shift it. So let's just talk about the power of energy and attention, right? I'm sure you've heard before. It's a classic saying like energy flows where attention goes. So, look, if someone's attention is fixated on what's wrong, their problems, frustrations, their complaints, then, the energy follows suit. It's heavy, it's stagnant, right? But when the energy shifts to what might be possible, what is good, or even something that's just like neutral, then the energy lightens up immediately. It's like a fundamental psychological principle. It's cognitive reframing. It's like when you guide someone to see a different perspective or focus on what they want instead of what they don't want. So when you do that, their brain literally starts creating new pathways for optimism and possibility. Possibility is filled with positivity. And, shit happens is sort of the other perspective. So how can you do this? First of all, if it's you in that situation, I've been in situations where I realize I'm a downer and I'll just say something like, oh, I'm going down a downer spiral here. Let's shift this around. Let's talk about something funny. Anything funny you saw lately? Or, I will get myself out of it. I can sometimes feel that in a conversation. Maybe I vented a little too long. I need to turn it around, right? You could just feel the vibe. And when it becomes a little bit burdensome for the other person. So if it's you, you could just call yourself and call it out. But one of my favorite ways to sort of change the vibe, whether it's in a group or one-on-one, is by asking thoughtful, open-ended questions. So if someone's stuck in a loop of complaints, I would probably say something like, well, what would you prefer? Like I would be like, oh, in your ideal world, how would that look? So let's say the person is talking about how much they hate their job, right? They hate their boss or whatever. Then I might be like, well, what's your ideal boss? Like if you want to work for someone, what is it that you want and you think is proper in a leader? And then they're going to sit there and talk about all the positive qualities, right? But if someone started to say, well, I don't want someone who does that. This is classic in relationships. You're like, well, what do you want? Well, I don't want someone who lies. I don't want someone who cheats. You're just like, okay, we need to reframe that. What's the opposite of I don't want someone who cheats? You want someone who's loyal, right? What's the opposite of I don't want someone who lies? I want someone who's authentic and honest. It's the reframing. And so that's how I would shift it. Also, you can just shift the vibe by asking people about their life. If they're complaining about, politics or whatever, and if you know them or not, if you know them, it might be a good time to have some things in your back pocket. What do you remember about what they said the last time you told them? Did their son just go to college? Are they starting a new job? Like, is there something you'd be like, oh, hey, how's that thing going? How's your music? Or something that lights them up, that takes them out of that. people love, obviously, and it lights them up to talk about the things they're passionate about. So, you know what I mean? If someone hates their job, but they're like a great knitter, you can be like, hey, what kind of, what do you got working on? What are you working on this year? What are you up to? Anything that shifts that focus. So the other way too is to say, hey, in your ideal world, how would this look? Like ideally, just forget what you think is realistic. Like, let's just pretend for a minute, like what would be ideal? And that, it's like almost magic. You can see the expression change, the energy shift. Suddenly, instead of replaying the misery, they're tapping into some creativity. They're tapping into some hope. And not only does it help them, what you're doing, but it transforms the whole dynamic between you. You're no longer stuck in their storm of shit. You're standing with them in a solution, right? You're standing with them in possibility. Hopefully that resonates with you and you can kind of visualize what I'm talking about here. There's also sort of the science of emotional contagion. There's this concept, and it's the idea that emotions, positive or negative, spread like a virus. You know, if you've ever started laughing just because someone else couldn't stop, then you've experienced this. We all have, right? Like a friend is just giggling and laughing and can't stop, and now you start laughing. It also works both ways. Negativity can pull you down just as easily as positivity can lift you up. So what this means is your energy, your own energy, is a tool. When you bring curiosity and lightness and positivity into a situation, then others sort of can't help but feel it as well. Even if they don't consciously notice it, their mood can begin to mirror yours. That's why people, they say about anybody. I mean, who is it for you that you're like, I just like their energy? You know, maybe you watch YouTube videos of a certain person, or you like a certain actor, or you like a certain TV host, or whatever it is. And, you're just like their energy. Like I watch them, I hear them talk, and it makes me feel better, right? So hopefully you feel that way about this podcast. That's the goal. You can be that too for anyone in just everyday life. So in the moments that, in the moments where it's tough to maybe try to turn the person around, you know, you can come in and lift something up. Right. And this is not to say that I don't want people to think like you're at a wake and you're like, well, hey, look at the bright side. He lived a great life for 55 years. Like we're not talking about injecting positivity into horrific situations and trying to turn someone around when they're in deep grief, right? Obviously, hope you know that. You can also shift the actual physical energy. Here's a move. So sometimes it's not like the conversation that's heavy, it's just kind of the whole room. And in those moments, you can just shift the physical energy. You can suggest standing up. You can move to a different space. Hey, let's take a, hey, you want to go outside? I want to go check on my tomato plant or whatever. Just shift it. Maybe you're like, let's take a walk for yourself or with someone else because physical movement disrupts that inertia of negativity. You know what I mean? That staticky, and they're just sitting there. Think about it. When you're feeling stuck or you're down, even just stepping outside for 5 minutes can kind of give you a whole new perspective. I know with myself that if I'm having a tough moment in my mind and emotions, and I go take a walk or even just go take a little drive to a view, getting outside, getting in nature, just getting fresh air gives me a whole new perspective. So you can use this trick in group settings too. If a meeting or a gathering is feeling like a freaking drag, maybe you suggest, hey man, can we all take a quick stretch break or something? Or let's or move the group to another location if you're the leader, and you can just see how the mood changes. Obviously, introducing humor always shifts the energy. Laughter is one of the fastest ways to shift energy. I've actually been in the past, not now, I think I gauge my audience pretty well, but in the past, I probably had issues. I know I had issues with vulnerability. And so I think I used humor to deflect lots of things, whether it be compliments, so like the inability to receive and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe I tried to joke people out of serious situations too soon. Now I don't do that. I recently did a workshop where there was a woman who came on, lovely woman, Becky. She talked about how her husband, love of her life, had died a couple of weeks prior. And it was sad. And I didn't try to turn her around. But through the conversation and as we're talking about it, there was a moment. And, I did make her laugh. And later she did write me and say, hey, thanks for the laugh. I needed that. And again, appropriate use. I wasn't going to come out of the gate on that. And again, it's not my instinct now, but if it's your instinct to always joke, then I would say take a little bit of a look at your lack of vulnerability, perhaps, because that's where mine came from. And now that I feel okay and safe and fine being vulnerable publicly, privately, whatever, um, I don't need to deflect uncomfortable emotions or things like that, or try to, just like, oh, let's be the comedian here and lighten it up. So, but laughter is one of the fastest ways to shift energy. It's like a freaking reset button for the vibe in a room. If you're dealing with someone who's spiraling into negativity, just if you can gently inject humor, something light, non-judgmental, something that doesn't dismiss their feelings, maybe just adds a moment of levity. You know what I mean? Like it could be light. I mean, this is like kind of not a hilarious joke or anything, but let's say someone's just complaining about how busy they are or whatever. Um, you can be like, wow, sounds like we need to clone you. Not sure the world could handle two of you. Wow, this is amazing. Like there's something in there you could be like, how do you do it all? Or whatever, to just sort of lighten and change because it's going in a complaint. It's not about being fake. Gratitude is a great redirect. That's a subtle and powerful tool. If someone is focused on what's going wrong, then you can guide the conversation to what's going right. You can say, hey, look, just give me one good thing that happened this week, right? Or you can say, hey, is there anything you're looking forward to in the next couple of months? You know what I mean? Anything, maybe, again, it could be like, oh, well, we do have this concert booked next month for, okay, great. Oh, ask them more about that. They said something they're looking forward to. Let's soak and get all that we can from that. So then if they're going to the concert, ask them about the band. Oh, how long have you been into them? What got you into them? Did you hear a song on the radio? Did you just keep asking questions so that they're talking about the shit that they love? So gratitude, it shifts the brain's focus from scarcity to abundance. Even the act of thinking about something positive starts to release the feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine. Just thinking about something positive. Another nuance and thought, maybe reflect and validate before shifting. So sometimes people need to feel heard, right? Like I said, my issue before with, maybe just not having vulnerability and joking too soon. And then people are like, hey man, be serious. I was like, oh shit, you're right. This is a pretty serious situation. But sometimes people need to feel heard, right? Before they can shift their energy. So this is, if someone's deeply entrenched in a negative, frustrating situation, jumping straight to positivity, like I mentioned in that example, it'll make them feel dismissed. So you might want to reflect their feelings back to them. That does suck. This is horrible. I can see why you're so upset. Yeah, I get why you feel that way. Most of the time, what you're going to be saying is true. Likely someone's not a psycho and they're giving you kind of valid reasons why they might be upset. Once they feel validated, then you can gently guide the conversation towards some brighter topics or solutions or a joke. You could always say, well, what do you think would help in this situation right now? Or what's something that might make tomorrow a little better? What can I help you with? You can also ask. You can just say, hey, look, this is a horrible situation. It's terrible. But is there any, can we shift the energy? Do you want to shift the energy? I want to stay here for a while because I don't, there's positives that could be pointed out, but I know, sometimes people don't want to hear it. Sometimes you can just gauge it. You can just gauge it. You become intuitive enough where you know whether to let them keep rolling. Usually with me, what I do is I'll call a friend, or if I'm talking about fiance, because I have a very, by the way, I'll do a whole episode on getting engaged at 50 and all of that and finding my soulmate and manifesting that. So look out for that coming up. But with him and with most alpha men, and I mean alpha in the most positive way, not the way it's been bastardized in the past few years on the internet, but a true alpha guy, it's like they're trying to create solutions. This is the classic tale of, alpha men and women, is that you come to them with something and you're just wanting to cry about it. Like you just need to cry and vent. You're not looking for advice. You're not looking for a solution. And they don't understand that because they're just like ready to solve it, which is really nice. But then in that sense, I preempt it. I preface it. I will say, honey, here's the deal. I know all the positive stuff already. I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a life coach. I get it. I just need to vent right now. I need someone to be like a sane witness to whatever I'm frustrated about. So I just need to cry it out. There's no solutions here. I'm going to be fine. I'm hating it right now. Like I would just, and he'll go, okay. He just knows to soothe me and comfort me. And he knows not to go, well, what about this? Right? And sometimes you just need that. So if that's what you need from a friend, I'll call my friends who are coaches and I'll go, hey, I got a doozy here. I need to rip it out. I'm gonna shred it. And then I need a witness. And then I want to turn it around. Right. But they know what I need first. They know to give me that venting space. And so that's something to be very cognizant of. Cognizant. So one of the most underrated ways to shift the vibe is by just embodying the energy, right, that you want to create. If you're calm, grounded, and positive, it sets the tone for others to follow. Think about it. If someone walks into a room smiling, confident, calm, and engaged, the whole space feels different compared to someone who slouches in, sighing and complaining. So be the vibe you want to experience. And here's the secret. This works even if you're not feeling great. Okay, sometimes just acting the way you want to feel can trick your brain into catching up and lighten everything around you. I remember being in a meeting where the vibe was just absolutely off. And everyone was complaining about, this was years ago, everyone was complaining about deadlines. It felt like we were getting nowhere. I just took a deep breath and I said, okay, let's flip this, man. What's one win we've had this week? Big or small? Let's hear it. And at first there was some resistance. And then, but one person shared something. Then the mood shifted. By the end of the meeting, we were brainstorming solutions. And instead of dwelling on the problems, right, we were actually in a creative mode. And that's the power of attention and intention and shifting the room, shifting the vibe. So changing the vibe in a conversation or a room is a skill. It's one we all can develop, and it just starts with recognizing the energy, deciding to shift it, not through force, not through fake positivity, but by bringing curiosity, bringing some humor, maybe gratitude, or a change in perspective, maybe. And I guess the best part is when you practice this, it not only changes the dynamic for the other people, it uplifts you too, right? It's like energy is contagious and you bring the light into that room. You're shining brighter yourself. The next time you feel that vibe slipping, try one of these tips. You might just really turn someone's day and your own. You might turn it completely around. All right, everyone. If you haven't yet, I'd love it. Please, if you love and enjoy the show, write a review on Apple or Spotify. That would greatly help get it out into the ether, and so more people can hear it too. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this show, I would so appreciate you leaving a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about partner discounts on amazing products, visit ellruss.com/discounts.